So when I talk about power and influence, I like to talk about the parable of the wind and the sun. So one day, the wind and the sun, they were arguing about who was more powerful. This is not a true story, by the way. They were arguing about who was more powerful, and they couldn't agree. The sun thought the sun was more powerful, the wind thought the wind was more powerful, and so finally the sun proposed a contest. The sun said, "Do you see that guy down there with the coat on? Whichever one of us can get him to take off his coat, that is the more powerful one." And the wind said, "Okay." And so the sun said, "You go first." And so the wind blew and blew and blew as hard as possible, but the only result was the guy pulled his coat even tighter around himself. So then it was the sun's turn. And so the sun just got warmer and warmer and warmer. And eventually the guy took his coat off. So this story is usually used to illustrate the difference between soft power and hard power. The fact that sometimes soft power can be more effective than hard power. I actually use it to illustrate the difference between power and influence, because the way I see it, power is what's inside you. It's the potential to influence, whereas influence is actually making something happen. And you'll see this in the definitions of power and influence as well. But influence is visible. Influence is when a change actually happens. Power is the potential to make that influence happen. So in this story, the sun and the wind both had power, but only one of them had influence. And so that's why I think it's so important to have the face you show the world and the inner power. Because if you develop that inner power, it means you have the potential to make change in the world around you. But unless you learn those influence tactics, you won't actually be able to make the change.